Imagine handing your 1-year-old a knife. Not a butter knife, a real one, sharp enough to cut skin, and then just walking away. Sounds insane, right? Like something that gets you a visit from child services. But for most of human history, that wasn't insane. That was just Tuesday. For over 95% of the time humans have existed, we didn't raise kids the way you were raised. Not even close. And once you see how it actually worked, you'll never look at normal parenting the same way again. Here's the first thing that'll break your brain. For most of human history, kids weren't raised by a parent, or even two parents. They were raised by everyone. Among the FA people in the Congo, researchers found that by the time a baby is just 18 weeks old, it already has around 14 different caregivers. 14. And babies get physically passed from one adult to another about 8 times every single hour. Think about that. In the time it takes you to watch this video, an FA infant might get handed off to a new set of arms multiple times. We call this alloparenting, care from people who aren't the biological mom or dad. And it wasn't rare. It wasn't a backup plan for emergencies. In many hunter-gatherer societies, these non-parent caregivers provided almost half of a child's care. Sometimes more. Among the Agda in the Philippines, alloparents handled roughly 3/4 of infant care. The modern idea of, it's just me and my partner, alone, figuring this out, that's not how humans evolved to do this at all. Here's a number that's going to sound fake, but it's not. In hunter-gatherer camps, the ratio of available adult caregivers to small children could exceed 10 to 1. Compare that to today. In the UK, licensed nurseries are legally required to have at least one adult for every 3 children under 2. That's considered good childcare. Ancient humans were running daycare ratios that modern regulators would call unrealistic. And it wasn't just about numbers. It was about proximity. Studies suggest that for almost the entire day, a hunter-gatherer toddler had a capable adult within about 2 meters of them. Not glancing over from across a room. 2 meters. Basically always in reach. So if you've ever felt like modern parenting is exhausting and isolating compared to what it should feel like, you're not imagining it. You're missing backup that used to be built in. Okay, here's where it gets even stranger. In several tribes, there was no bedtime. Like, not a looser bedtime, no concept of it at all. Kids just stayed near the adults until they got tired and fell asleep wherever they were. And discipline? In some groups, like the Paracana, adults reportedly never beat their kids, never yelled at them, never scolded them. But here's the twist. They also never praised them. No gold stars, no, good job, buddy. No tracking milestones or celebrating first steps. It wasn't gentle parenting. It wasn't strict parenting. It was almost neutral parenting. Kids weren't punished into behaving, and they weren't rewarded into performing either. They were just allowed to exist and figure it out. Now here's the part that sounds like a horror story. In many hunter-gatherer societies, letting a baby or toddler play with something dangerous, a sharp knife, a hot pot, an open fire, wasn't neglect. It was philosophy. These cultures believed that even infants were autonomous individuals whose desires shouldn't be blocked. Hadza infants, for example, were allowed to grasp and even suck on the blades of sharp knives. And fire? In parts of New Guinea, anthropologists were stunned to learn that many adults' burn scars were actually acquired in infancy because their parents let them stay near open flame and, if something went wrong, let them learn from it. That's not a typo. Getting burned was, in some cases, considered an acceptable price for raising a child who trusted their own judgment. We're not saying try this at home. But it tells you something wild about how differently humans used to think about risk, fear, and childhood itself. Here's a thing that doesn't match the modern classroom model at all. Researchers studying hunter-gatherer groups found that direct teaching, an adult sitting a kid down and explaining something, was actually rare. Adults mostly didn't intervene or give instructions. Instead, kids learned almost everything through imitation and unsupervised play in mixed age groups. Watch, copy, mess up, try again, with basically no lecture involved. And this connects to something else. Early weaning. Human babies were weaned earlier than any other great ape's offspring. Why? Why? Because once a baby wasn't tied to one mother's milk, it could be passed around the group, which is exactly what made all that alloparenting possible in the first place. It also let mothers have more kids, closer together, because they weren't doing it all solo. By around age 4, the age when kids started preferring other kids' company over adults, Many hunter-gatherer cultures figured that was it. That child now had enough judgment to decide what was safe and what wasn't, mostly on their own. 4 years old, making their own risk calls. No hovering, no supervision from a distance, just trust. So next time you think about how kids should be raised, remember this. The version you probably picture, 1 or 2 exhausted parents doing it all themselves, is actually the weird, historical outlier. For almost the entire story of our species, no one raised a kid alone. Everyone did. If this messed with your head a little, you'll probably like the next video. Go watch that one next. See you in the next one.